Oh,
Yes, we got
wow.
more company.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's please let them in. Yes.
Who we
All
got?
right, it is an honor to have this gentleman join us for this portion of the show. He is the 37th General President of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. He made history becoming the first Haitian American and first Syracuse University alum to lead in that position. Welcome to the show, General President Lucien Metellus. Good to see you, good brother.
Good to see you, my brother. How are you doing?
Oh man, it is outstanding, man. I'm glad I ran into you yesterday, and I saw everything got kicked off in the city. How's Philly treating us so far?
Philly's great. Philly's great so far, my brother. Everything's good on this side.
Yeah. Now we don't want to keep you long because I know this morning is a very
Hey, man, I'm
important
stunned. I'm
sessions
sitting
coming
here
up.
like,
Yeah,
brother,
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know how you squeeze this in, brother.
yeah,
You got thousands
yeah.
of black men looking for your word
Yeah.
right now. So, yeah.
Right. But I wanted to talk quickly about the overarching theme of this convention is reimagining the fraternity, right? And I want to hear your perspective on what that means for the
Mhm.
rest of us who are not in membership, and what it means for the community at large, both Divine Nine.
Mhm.
I didn't go to college. I don't understand. I'm a Republican. I'm a Democrat. What does reimagining this historic organization, what does reimagining it mean for the rest of the Black community?
So first and foremost, thank you for having me on, and I really appreciate it. I know you're busy too, so
Yeah, yeah.
just squeezing me in, I appreciate that. But let me start off. Let me start off with a very important point. Reimagining it means that we are thinking about what our world is going to look like 10, 15 years from now. If I had told you in 2010 that Donald Trump would be president for the second time, brother, probably would have you probably would have laughed at me in my face.
Yes, sir.
And I think that when we look at reimagining Alpha for the future, we have to be strategic, one on the political side, not in the sense of we're endorsing candidates, but what are we going to do to mobilize the disenfranchised to go out and vote? But not only vote, but make educated decisions, right? We need politicians that are actually going to keep their promises for us and our people. And that means that we have to not only mobilize the vote, educate the vote, but hold elected officials accountable from the dog catcher to the president of the United States. A lot of times, so let's talk about a voteless people as a hopeless people. We just get focused on the midterms and then we get focused on the presidential election. What we really need to do is be focused on every election, and I'll tell you why. There have been parties that have been planning to do this for 20, 30, 40 years.
Yes.
They reimagined how their party would look. Now, I don't necessarily know if this is exactly what it thought they would look like at that time, but they have been planning since Bill Clinton to take over the government,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
And so we have to start thinking strategically like that. When we talk, so that's when we talk about voter advocacy. When I talk about our brotherhood, we have to make sure that we're developing a 19, 20, 21-year-old brother to be the next Secretary of State, to the next doctor or PhD or professor, right? Instead of just saying, hey, you're an alpha now. What are we doing intentionally? Making sure you have a professional mentor, making sure you have a track to follow so that you're the best success that you can be. Make sure that we help you with financial planning. We just assume just because people went to college, they know how to handle money. That's not necessarily true.
That's right.
So we've got to make sure that we're developing, we've got to create economic impact in our communities. That doesn't always mean that everybody needs to everyone needs to own a business, but what does mean is that we need to increase the education financially and strategically invest in our communities, whether it's not just property, it's all kinds of businesses. And so we've got to intentionally do that. So that means a bigger idea of what brotherhood is. It's more than just hanging out, which is the most important part, is us being brothers. But we've got to be more strategic. When we help each other, that helps our communities, that helps us grow. And you know this, you all know this better than anybody, economic power equals more access, more opportunities, and more respect in this society. Third thing, and I think this is extremely, extremely important, is that in reimagining Alpha, we have to be more focused on supporting Black women. I don't want to hear Black women are carrying the community. We as men have been the leaders, and we need to do more to protect our women and be leaders in the future. So there's a lot of subcontext in those three things, a lot of things that we have to do internally, But what I want us to remember is that with no economic agenda, there is no power.
Mm.
We need an economic agenda. And like I said, we just can't vote. We have to vote and make sure that those that we vote in are of our interests.
Mm-hmm. Brother
The
President.
House,
Oh,
yes, sir.
No, I was going to ask you
Go
very
ahead.
quickly. I know
Go ahead.
the image of Alpha, certainly the reason that I joined, is anchored in the real practice of intellectual work. I mean, the practical application for sure, but when I think about the people that, the Paul Robesons, the W. Du Boises, I mean, there's too many to name, right to up to today. Could you offer us your thoughts, a few thoughts on the status of intellectual work at the college level? A lot of our students now are heavy into networking. They're using the university to do what they came to do, which is, find employment, get job training skills, get these kind of networking skills. But on the question of intellectual work, learning for learning's sake, what role does that play? Particularly for Alpha, which has had that reputation more than probably any other Greek-led organization for people of African descent.
So I think, to your point, Brother Green, intellectual development is a constant throughout our whole lives as men. We should never not be learning something. And so in Alpha Phi Alpha, we're going to promote more book activity, not only for us, but for young people.
Yes.
Young people in middle school, high school, grade school. And I always give this example. I don't know if, brother, if you've ever heard me talk about this. The first book I read was a letter from a Birmingham jail by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. when I was 9 years old. I didn't understand the context of what I was reading, but I just got it because someone said you need to read something, right?
Yes, sir.
And lifelong learning is not only paramount, but a key part of Alpha Phi Alpha. So what we've done is with Alpha University, we're creating curriculum around that lifelong learning. It's not more than about reading, because a lot of our younger people nowadays don't consume information in the way we consume it. So we have to provide a platform that's more conducive to the way they receive information. But that's all still part of intellectual growth, right? So I think that sometimes, and I'm gonna put myself in this category because you all are clearly still young college brothers at heart. Us
sure.
older men,
At heart,
right?
Sure.
We don't necessarily don't engage in the platforms that our 19, 20, 21-year-olds brothers and sisters are doing.
Sure.
But we have an opportunity to leverage those to help them with continual learning. Because once you graduate college, even if you get a PhD, there's still so much more that you don't know than you do.
Absolutely.
Right? On everything, even your own, even the field that you specialize in. I know, for example, that as you started where you started today, and where you started today is not where when you started this show, it's not where it is today.
That's right.
How you started, you learn more, you learn how to leverage access, leverage people, leverage opportunities. So it's not the same show, and that's a good thing.
Yes.
But that requires lifelong learning and lifelong training. So we'll intentionally promote that in the fraternity, because those are how we build the highest level of intellectual status.
Yes, sir.
Now, Dr. Carr and I, he celebrated 40 years this spring. I celebrated 30 this spring. So I'm up here celebrating for both of us.
Yes.
But it was, and I know you're short for time, but one thing you mentioned at the beginning was, not necessarily backing a political candidate as a part of our political strategy. But with recent changes in tax exempt status of these larger organizations that we saw last week, what would that do for Alpha in the future?
So that's a great point. So what I've started to look at what that material is and talk to professionals in the tax service areas in terms of the law and tax services. If we're exempt, I think that it will shift the way we look at the way we address those issues, right? A lot of times, and this is why I say that we want to be careful, because a lot of times, and this is no offense against a particular media, but sometimes I've seen that the media doesn't always tell the full story, right? So the IRS puts out an exemption on endorsing political candidates, but if you read closely, it says within their congregation or members of their services, right? It's not an outward. So it's not an outward endorsement. It's not saying that churches can go on TV and say the so-and-so church or the Baptist side of the road church endorses so-and-so candidate. It's saying that in the service itself or in communication with the members of the church, they can endorse the candidate. But if you come out publicly, I don't know what that necessarily means, because the way it was written and the way it was presented is that you can say that to your members, but not necessarily outwardly to the rest of the world. But of course, if you say it to your members, naturally there's going to be an association that it goes outwardly. But there's always the fallback case. Say, I didn't say it like on TV, I didn't post it on a flyer, I didn't put it on the internet, but I just was reaching out to my congregation.
Right. All right. Last question from me. If you could mobilize your entire membership, active and inactive, around one singular issue, what would it be?
Economic justice. Economic justice. We the real threat to the Black community, but the disenfranchised overall, is the moment that we realize that we have economic power, and those, the 1%, and I'm not anti 1%er, but those 1% at the top need to be more invested in being partners for our community, instead of just take. They need to be in partners. And we all know that if we come together, whether it's regardless of race, gender, sexuality, if we come together, we have to make sure that the youngest of us has an opportunity to eat at 3 meals a day. We have to make sure that the most disenfranchised of us has an equal opportunity to get to college. That's the real issue. I'm going to say this as kind of a closing statement. When you and I went to college, Brother King, I won't say college was affordable, but at least it was attainable in terms of.
Sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Now, some colleges have quadrupled since the 90s in terms of price.
Yeah.
And that's not even keeping up with inflation.
That's right.
Why is that? Why is that? I heard a U.S. president said that, well, we want you to go, well, I want to save your Black jobs. What does that really translate to? That really translates to, I want to economically disadvantage you by giving you jobs that I think are less than. And so in order to help that equation, I'm going to make higher education unattainable just by affordability. Not because of qualification, but because of costing of.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly
37th General President of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, Brother Lucien J. Metellus, Sapase, super important guy. I know you got a long day ahead of you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you making some time with us. It's
Brother
absolutely an honor to talk to you.
Thank
All
you.
right, talk to you.
Yes, sir.
All right.